Sure, there are wizards that will automatically build resources for you inside of AWS. Sure, there are templates you can use, but nothing is going to help you adapt to and get more comfortable with the cloud than with us walking through how you would build your own virtual network step by step. Let's do that in this video. Now, it is definitely the case, and you'll notice it right away, that the more you are familiar with the traditional networking components, well, then certainly the more very comfortable you're going to be with these virtualized components of the cloud. Here we are inside of AWS's VPC dashboard, the virtual private cloud dashboard, and notice there is a wizard. You see that? Launch the VPC wizard. And this wizard is going to automate the creation of a VPC for you. But as I indicated, that's not what we're going to do. Instead, we'll go ahead and create a virtual private network in this cloud manually, step by step. So let's go ahead and create the VPC. And notice I'm going to create only the VPC. And I'll name this Cloud plus VPC. And notice we will go ahead and provide an IPv4 classless internet domain routing prefix. So what IP address space do we want associated with this VPC? And I'll go ahead and say, all right, I would like the entire 10.0.0 range available to us. So we'll go ahead and give that overall CIDR address, and we are not going to do anything with IPv6. Now, as far as the tenancy goes, this is not going to be a dedicated VPC on set equipment. We're just going to default it to the normal multi-tenancy settings of AWS. And this is going to really help ensure that we are not charged too much for this resource. Notice there will be the name tag, and bing, we just created our VPC. You saw how easy that was. Now let's review the properties of this thing. So the VPC got an ID, and that is how it will be known in AWS. We had the default tenancy. There's no default VPC configured here. This is just a new VPC we have called Cloud Plus VPC. There's nothing done with DNS resolver firewall groups. It's available. There's a DHCP option set in case we need to make any changes or tweaks to DHCP. There's our CIDR range we set. There's our owner ID. DNS host names are disabled. And look at this, there is a main routing table as well as a main network ACL. What is the main routing table? Well, let's go take a look at it. So I click on it, and we are going to examine this routing table, and notice what it's doing. It's just ensuring that the 10.0.0/24 CIDR range is kept local. Yeah, no need to try and send this to an internet gateway or anything. It's all locally accessible address space. Interesting. Let's go back to our VPCs. And let's go look at our Cloud Plus VPC that we created. And let's talk about this main network ACL. Notice there is a network ACL associated with this VPC. And notice that it is permitting all traffic. So absolutely all traffic sourced from anywhere is permitted. And notice that's the same with the outbound rule. So all traffic is permitted thanks to this network ACL. What is the network ACL for? What would be the role of such a firewall-like structure? Well, the job of the network ACL is to protect traffic flows, to protect traffic, to secure things that are flowing from VPC to VPC. So as we get more sophisticated with a VPC type of structure, you might use the network ACL to control the traffic that is flowing between VPCs. All right, so there you see we have created the VPC, but a VPC all by itself isn't going to do much for us. No, it's not. Because a VPC all by itself like this is not going to have any subnets inside it. And it's the subnets inside of a VPC that we are actually going to place our network resources in. So let's go ahead and now create a subnet that's going to live inside of our VPC. And by the way, notice one of the things that you are going to want to develop is your naming convention. When we create a subnet, we are going to place it in our new Cloud Plus VPC. But notice when I name it, I'll go ahead and use kind of a consistent naming approach. I'll say cloud underscore plus underscore, how about subnet 1? So notice I'm not thrilled with my naming convention, but at least it's a start. Now, what about an availability zone? Be careful with this. This is where you can get yourself into trouble. When you start forcing resources into certain little nooks and crannies of AWS, well, that's when you can start running them out of certain classes of instances or software or resources in general. So if you don't need to have a preference on which actual availability zone that this resource will be created in within Amazon, well, then don't set a preference. Yeah, don't get aggressive with that kind of stuff. All right, what's the IPv4 CIDR block going to be? All right, well, let's go ahead and do a subnet of our overall CIDR space. I'll say, how about 10.1.1.0/24 as the space that we are going to utilize. So notice we're going to come up with our IPv4 CIDR block, and then we are going to have our name tag in place. Notice you're typically going to be creating many subnets, so there is a handy new subnet button. And I just realized, obviously, you need to be in the scope of your overall CIDR address, and I went out of that scope. We said we were going to be in the 10.0.0/24. So in order to go outside of that, I'm going to have to do a little subnetting, right? So I'm going to do 10.0.0.5/ just doing some quick math in my head. How about /26? This will be fine. So you can come up with a nice subnetting scheme that you're going to do in your overall IPv4 CIDR block, and then go ahead and choose create subnet. And there is your subnet created for you. And notice that is associated, of course, with the virtual private cloud that we created a moment ago. And notice here I have navigated back to the main subnets view, and right there at the very bottom we can confirm that we have our Cloud Plus subnet 1 created properly. This is excellent. All right, now what about additional components that might be needed here? Well, I can think of one. What if whatever we place inside of this subnet needs to reach the internet? Well, that's what we have an internet gateway for. So let's create an internet gateway. I will say this is my Cloud Plus IGW. And notice that's all we need to do. Just go ahead and then create it. And once we have our Cloud Plus Internet Gateway, we're going to go ahead and attach to a VPC. And so we are going to select a VPC. There's our Cloud Plus VPC, and we are going to attach that Internet Gateway. Fantastic. So notice, while it is kind of laborious building these components of the virtual network inside of AWS step by step, one of the beautiful things is we can appreciate and we can control to a fine degree every element of each one of these components. And we know exactly what is done from a configuration and even component naming standpoint. So what else might we need as part of a virtual network like this inside of AWS? Well, certainly one of the things we would now need would be the appropriate routing table instructions to make this network function properly. So notice I can go in and create a new route table. I'll call this cloud_plus_route table or RT. And notice we're going to associate this, of course, with our cloud plus VPC, and it gets its name tag. We go ahead and create that route table. Now, notice for subnet associations, we can go and associate the subnet that we created moments ago together with that route table. So now if we look in the route table, we can edit the routes and we can say, look, sure, it's fine to keep everything in 10.0.0/24 local, but how about stuff that's destined for any other address? Well, we want to send that to our internet gateway. And there is our internet gateway. So we'll save these changes to the routing table. And now we have done it. That's right. We have created the ingredients that would make a virtual network inside of AWS a reality. To review what components we created there and in what order, we first created a virtual private cloud. And the virtual private cloud was defined, very simple to define this inside of AWS. And then we went inside that VPC, if you will, and we created a subnet. So we created a subnet inside of the VPC. So that this subnet would be able to reach the internet, we added and associated with the VPC an internet gateway. And then finally, we wrapped it up with the creation of a route table. A route table that will do two things: keep local traffic local, and then will send non-local internet traffic to the internet gateway that we created. Again, creating structures like this, practicing with this inside of AWS is an excellent habit to get into. Thanks so much for watching.